Addy Soldiers. If I look like I'm a sweaty mess, it's because I am. It's freaking hot in Vancouver right now. I also decided to wear a long sleeve shirt, and I could take it off and make myself much cooler, but then I wouldn't have this amazing sleeve and I wouldn't feel like a Shakespearean poet pirate. And if being a theater kid has taught me anything, it's to commit to the aesthetic, so pirate sleeve stays. Also the other day my skin was like, hey, do you want some acne? And I was like, not really, I'm good, I'm fine. And it's like, oh great, I'm so glad you said yes. I cleared the shelves for you. There was a 6-for-1 sale. So now I have a bunch of deep, dark, very annoying gentleman collars. And I'm referring to them by male pronouns because you know only a man could be this annoying. Nope, need the fan. So as many of you most likely have, I have also fallen prey to the wondrous app that is TikTok. And I have to say, BookTok is poppin'. Like, it has some great recommendations and some very fun tags. And I'd say just like BookTube or any other kind of book platform, you know, you're gonna see the same books over and over again because a lot of people happen to like them. Like, on BookTube, for example, you're not gonna go very far without stumbling across some Sarah J. Maas or some Cassandra Clare or Leigh Bardugo. And if you see them in someone's year-end favorite book wrap-up, you know, you're not gonna be surprised. And BookTok is no different. There is a good, you know, amount of books that I see over and over again that are recommended, and I find that these tend to be either older YA or new adult. And coincidentally, as it happens, I have been expanding my reading a little bit recently to go into some more new adult stuff and more romance heavy things, you know, just jazz up my reading a little bit. But I noticed that a large portion of BookTok type TikToks are younger or like middle teen girls talking about either like sexy, smutty, or like sexual tension filled recommendations. And in particular, TikTok loves Sarah J. Maas, particularly Crescent City and Akotar, as well as this book, Jennifer L. Armentrout, this book in particular, From Blood and Ash, and a couple of her other ones. And basically just a bunch of other books where the main point of the book is that there are some sexy people that get together and that are sexy together. And one of them's probably like a supernatural being. Now, I've seen some of the books that are recommended as new adult and some of them are young adult, and the line is a little blurry, not necessarily because of age, but more because of content. And I did a whole video on what new adult is, which I will link up somewhere there, back when I had long hair and bangs. But the quick and dirty version is that young adult books are my favorite. And these are books that have protagonists usually around 13 to 18 and usually deal with things like self-identity, family, friend drama, kind of coming into yourself. Whereas new adult are books that have older protagonists, usually like 18 to 24, and deal with more things about like going to university, being self-sufficient for the first time, maybe addressing some trauma, and yes, sexuality and mental health. Now, new adult books are hard enough to find as it is, because new adult is not recognized as an actual genre, because after the young adult, after like the 18 mark, everything is just fiction. If you search up any new adult book list, like 90% of it is going to be Colleen Hoover. But after doing a couple of deep dives and getting a bunch of cheap ebooks online, I've read, I don't know, like 10 to 12 titled new adult books in the last month and a half, and I have some feelings about them that I really want to talk about. So first of all, to confirm what you've all heard, yes, it's true that new adult labeled books tend to have more sex in them, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I find they tend to delve deeper into trauma and mental health and the way that we bond in relationships more than a young adult book would. Actually, you know what, before we even go any further than this, I'm gonna put a trigger warning for this video because that's something that not a lot of these books do, and I feel like all of you should have that. You know, I respect you enough to give you that. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about books that cover things like physical, mental, and emotional manipulation and abuse. I'm going to be talking about sexual assault, sexual harassment, drug usage, emotional and physical trauma, and just some straight up abuse. So if any of that is triggering, just please be warned, or you can go watch one of my other videos. There's plenty of them. Oh, and I will be naming names of authors today, so just you wait. After reading, say, 10 to 12 of these new adult books within just a very short time frame, plus a couple others that I've just kind of like had on my shelves for a little while, I can say that new adult books are red flag central. Oh my god, I can't even go like 2 pages without another red flag popping up. I'm just being like, is this supposed to happen? Another thing I will say is that if you like these books, this does not make you a bad person. I myself prefer to have my romance and sex as like a subplot rather than the main plot, so this is also my opinion. What you like and what you don't like is very subjective, and I know there's going to be people that are much less critical than I am, or that who are critical but just don't care because they like stories, and stories are escapism. I've seen this argument too going around, actually also on TikTok, about how even though these books have maybe a weird power dynamic, people reading them know that they aren't real. So say that a romance new adult story where we have a fallen angel who is dominant, and then the other character is like this sweet 20-year-old virginal law student secretary, I don't know, whatever, get together, and then, you know, it's their story, whatever. Like, people know that that's not real, and it wouldn't happen, so it's okay to read that, and they can kind of separate themselves from that story. And you're not a bad person if you like these kind of things, because, you know, hell, I enjoy a little power play now and then, and I also have all the Sarah J. Maas's, like, I have all of them. I also enjoy these books too. I'm just hoping that as a reader, you can kind of step back from the story and look at them a little bit more objectively, and realize that what is happening in these books may not be a good representation of what should be happening. So I'm leaving it there. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a very fun laundry list of triggering topics that are being put in these books, and they're all seen as sexy and romantic. Why do I have to say this? Hey, abuse isn't sexy. Having these kinds of topics in a book does not make the book inherently bad, but I feel like the way that the author is portraying them to the audience is not right. For example, a lot of these new adult labeled books are very sex heavy, which is not a bad thing. I've done videos about sex and YA and how I'm a very sex positive person, and I feel like that education should be in a media form that a lot of young people are going to be seeing and reading. What I find what's happening in these books is that the author sets up a story with character development and plot, and then just chucks it out the window in lieu of her characters just banging a whole lot. And as someone who was in it for the story, I am very upset. Like, this is not good storytelling. If you want to write about sex, write an erotic short story. Don't give me this whole setup and then, like, chuck me and my expectations off a cliff where I then roll down the cliff into a gully and then, like, fall into the ocean and then just sink and then get absorbed by the melting of the tectonic places, one submerges under the other one. I don't know where I'm going with this metaphor. There's just a whole lot of real weird things that should not be portrayed as good in, like, the most popular books on BookTube and BookTok. For example, so in ACOTAR, you know, we're supposed to like Tamlin until book 2, and we're like, oh man, but Reese's jawline though. As an older reader reading this, I can be like, you know, he's being pretty manipulative. Plus there's that fun scene in, like, the middle of the book where it's like, hey, I might sexually assault you later and it's gonna be your fault if it happens, but we're not unpacking that today. And then in subsequent books, Reese is being very overbearing and pushing boundaries, and that's supposed to be sexy because, oh, he has her up against a wall, and oh my god, the tension. But it's like, if they weren't in that kind of dynamic, that would be real creepy. And again, another ding 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 red flag going off. Like, the cover is red. This is just a whole red flag. As is this book, yet another red flag wrapped in red. This is a book that I hate, that TikTok loves, and I don't know why, because this also sets up my expectations and then just, like, pushes them right off of the edge of the building. This book is very slut-shamey and very victim-blaming, and I get what she was going for, but there was never a moment in the book where the main character said, yes, I like sex and that doesn't make me a bad person, or yes, I do like wearing short dresses and lots of makeup. What of it? Like, I feel like there was actually a good story in here, but then the sex just outweighed that, and then we don't get any of the good underlying messages that maybe were supposed to be in it. And then there are books like this one by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which she herself has this whole kind of, like, little new adult empire. And I will say, actually, let's not talk about that book. Let's talk about Storm and Fury first, because this is one of the first ones that I read by her, and it's actually so good. And she wrote this way before From Blood and Ash, so, like, what the hell? Storm and Fury actually has consent when characters banter, but it makes sense, and they're not just randomly snarking at each other because tension. No, they actually have real reasons to, you know, connect. Also, side note, I think it's very funny that the main character has vision issues and, like, can't see someone's hands extended in front of them for a handshake, but she can see this character's abs from, like, 30 paces away. Like, this universe has Netflix, but no contact lenses, apparently. But then her latest one, which is From Blood and Ash, I already ranted about in a video, which I think is in this corner. I don't know anymore. Go watch that. But the main point of this book is that the main character just flips back and forth between being this, like, badass female warrior princess who, like, taking names and, like, being sexy, but then also it's like demure maiden who, like, can't do anything and needs to be saved all the time, which, like, in itself is confusing. And then the male character is, like, a love interest but also a warrior at arms, but also her protector, and he pushes her boundaries so hard in this book, and I'm like, hey, no, not good, no, hey, no. No, bad. He does a thing that a couple of these love interests do, and that's the, like, I'm pushing your boundaries because I know you better than you know yourself. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Then we have books by one very well-known new adult author, and that is Laura Thalessa, and let me say, there is no redeeming qualities in her work. I read multiples of hers because when I read the first one I was like, oh, maybe this is just an outlier. No, they all feature a very abusive, manipulative male love interest who like tortures people and hits the main woman, but oh, he's actually just this misunderstood bad boy. He's really sweet underneath and like, no! So this first book that I read I was so excited about because dark creepy fairies and this person called the Bargainer, and I was like, ooh, sign me up for that, but it was bad. First of all, his magic causes feelings of invasiveness in your body and pain, but he's supposed to be sexy, which, ew. Second of all, apparently it's bad if someone abuses you, but not if it's the right man. They also met when she was very underage. Ooh, that's not okay. Nothing quite says, I'm a changed woman who went through character development because I was sexually assaulted. Like, oh my lord, for the love of God, can we please use something else? And this also is kind of a thing in a lot of new adult fantasy books, or fantasy books in general, where the main love interest, who's a dude, is very animalistic, or he's not human and he never was human, and then by falling in love he like learns how to be human and gains emotions or whatever because the power of love saves him. Which also is not a good message to be saying to young girls reading this, or like anybody really, because you are not responsible to save your partner. They don't need a girlfriend, they need a therapist. Let's talk about another one of hers called Pestilence, which was supposed to be a Horseman of the Apocalypse series, and I was so excited, but oh, this character though, I think he's riding in on a horse carrying a sword, but you know what, he should be carrying a flag, and it should be bright red. He's carrying a red flag right into this story. Also, side note, I don't know what Mom Jeans ever did to Laura Thalessa, but she's out for them with a vengeance. So this guy tortures her, holds her prisoner, sexually assaults her, but oh my god, have you seen his abs though? So like, it's totally okay. Please stop doing this. Please, it's just, I can't take it anymore. Then I had the thought of, okay, you know what, fantasy, I'm done with this. No, we're gonna switch over to some, like, contemporary new adult, where the people are in college, we're having some, like, fun college romances and, like, learning about ourselves and discovering our self-identities. Sounds wonderful. Let's get away from all this inhuman crap that's gonna be, you know, fucking up the red flag meter for here to a rest of the eternity. I can tell you right now, my friends, that was not a good idea. It doesn't get any better in the contemporary genre. So the first one I'd heard a lot about that I was interested was The Coincidence of Callie and Caden by Jessica Sorensen. Started strong, leveled out, dropped off. This book deals with themes too dark to turn into a cutesy romance. Oh my god, we have parental abuse, we have drug abuse, we have eating disorders, we have cutting, we have sexual assault, we have PTSD, and I'm like, okay, you had better pull this off, Jessica. And she sure as hell didn't. It was just overly romanticized as like, oh, these are quirks and we need love to save each other. And I'm like, oh, no, you sure as hell don't. You need something stronger than that, girl. It's also very ableist towards people with mental health issues. Like, do you know how any of these work? And at first I was like, oh, I see where she's going with this. This is gonna be like a really healing kind of mental health book. But then it just wasn't. Also, the conflict was like, will they sleep together? And they do within like 5 minutes of meeting each other. So like, wrap this book up in a red flag and toss it off a bridge. And dare I say, this next one might be the reddest of red flags. The reddest of red. This is just line up all your red flags in a row, my friends, because Ashes to Ashes by Gail McHugh. Please never, none of you ever read this. Do not pay money for this like I did. This book says, what is character development and why bother with it? Why bother setting up what sounds like a sweet, let's save each other romance? We can make it about drug dealing and abusive partners and emotional manipulation. Girls love that, right? Yeah, slap that on a cover. Girls love being told their possessions and being pushed to the side and being abused by their boyfriends. Oh yeah, hot. This is a love triangle that I was expecting to turn into like a poly throuple, and it would have been really cute and like, wow, a different kind of relationship than I'm used to seeing. But no, it's just straight up abuse and assault like the whole way through. It's really bad, like really bad, like are you okay, Gail? Bad. 0 out of 10 would recommend. Also, I will say with this one and the other one, these are rated 4 and 5 stars by grown-ass adults who read these and thought that seeing all that was romantic and okay and normal. These adults are reinforcing to anybody who sees their review, which when in this scenario will mostly be younger girls, that this is okay and this is romantic and this is something that you should be excited about, which is not okay. And like I said at the beginning of the video, these books do not have trigger warnings at the beginning of the book to let you know. Like, as somebody who has thankfully not dealt with sexual assault, sometimes I'm just reading and I stumble across it. I'm like, oh, okay, no, thank you. But if I was somebody who had that and I didn't know going into it, I would not have a good time. As a reader, you want to fall in love with these characters, and as a writer, you want to make your reader fall in love with these characters. That's the whole point of having the love parent. You want them to, you know, flirt and get together and then be a couple. And I have never fallen in love with somebody who's treated me like shit. Just in general, when you're in a relationship, it's because you like the other person. Give me a couple who likes each other and supports each other and is interested in each other and like healthily communicates and has boundaries. Have them get together in a healthy way. Or acknowledge if it's not healthy. That's kind of what I kept expecting in a lot of these books about someone to finally realize that this person wasn't good for them, and no. Unless you are slamming somebody against a wall consensually, that is not passion, that is abuse. It's all about consent and boundaries and being with somebody who respects both of those. Assault and manipulation are being portrayed as romantic, which they absolutely should not be. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're someone who likes these kind of books, that doesn't make you a bad person, and it's not wrong to like it. People can like whatever they like. At least acknowledge when something is being portrayed in a way that is not safe, even if it is a fantasy. But having such an array of books that are basically all telling the reader the exact same thing, that something that is abuse and harassment is supposed to be something that they want and look for in a relationship, is not setting anybody up for any kind of expectations or good, healthy dynamics in their lives at all. Please, I need to rip down all the red flags. Oh my god, when I started filming this was mostly highlighter, and now it's mostly sweat. Please leave down below in the comments what you think of all of this. I would love to know, and I probably said something slanderous about your favorite author, but you know what? I'm not sorry. This is not okay. Just be telling girls or people, I'm just saying mostly girls because that is the demographic that I've seen the most recommend these books and talk about these books, but it really could be anybody. Should not be telling young people reading this that this is okay, because it's absolutely not. Oh my god, I'm dying. Why did I put on sleeves? They look so good though. This video is already a bajillion years long. I can just feel it. My camera's overheated 3 times already. To not add to the length of this video, I will most likely do another video on some of my favorite new adult books, because I have come across a few that I did actually and quite enjoy. So we will do that again. God, my brain is melted. I hope something I said hit home with somebody. Like, there's just red flags everywhere, man. We can't have these popping up like this. It's not safe, it's not healthy, and it's not sexy. Where are all the fun, loving books where the couples are just like, hey, I like you too, let's like communicate about our feelings and like have a good, wholesome relationship? Where are those books? I want those ones. Here's a reminder to respect people's boundaries and talk about consent with any partner that you may be seeing. Like, I started seeing somebody new and that was one of the first things I talked about, and honestly, it's made the last like couple weeks so much better, because like, wow, communication. Who would have thunk? You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!